How do you build a chicken run? I'll show you what I do. I found this to keep the chickens fairly safe. I haven't had many problems with this system. It's certainly not the only system. I don't know if it's the best system, but it's just the one that works for me. So this is what I do. So these are my chicken runs so far. I've only got 2 at the moment. I've got another 3 I need to get put together, hopefully in the next week or 2. They are quite time consuming, these, just because of the number of cable ties you need to use to get the chicken wire attached. These were fruit cages in older days, and they were about half the price before they started calling them chicken runs. They were a very cost effective way of housing your chickens, but unfortunately, as more and more people got into owning chickens, the prices just went up. These come as kits, they come as the frames, they're just click-in frames. They're very simple to put together, and they usually come with the chicken wire as well. And the chicken wire quality is not always brilliant, but this is fine. Chicken wire is to keep chickens in, it's not to keep predators out really. It's not strong enough to keep a fox out. You do need to put other measures in place for that, for their security. I use a hardware cloth. This is quite a strong cloth. I do go for quite high gauge. This is stronger than fox's teeth. That's what you're aiming for. I put it all the way around the bottom metre of the coop. I also put it on the door. Doors are definitely weak points on these chicken runs. There's usually quite a large gap in the frame, between the frame and the door. So I always put the hardware cloth across the door and then across the gap as well, and it just opens with the door. But just keeps a little bit more security there. The latches on these runs are rubbish in general really. I've not really found one with a good latch. It's just a lift up latch. But it's high enough up that a fox wouldn't be able to open it easily. I also back it up with some carabiner clips. I put one on the top of the bottom, just to give a bit more security and stability to the door. I also will be putting a skirt around the bottom of the hardware cloth. I'm just waiting until the other coops are joined to the run, because I don't bother covering both sides of the join, if that makes sense. So I don't put chicken wire on this side here if I've already got chicken wire on this side here. So I have one layer of chicken wire keeping these birds apart. There's no need to put any more in. And in fairness, I probably won't put the hardware cloth along this side here again. It all depends. So it has been quite effective when they first move in, obviously being boys on both sides. There can be a bit of posturing and argy-bargy, so it does just keep them a little bit more separate. But I could probably find a cheaper material to use to do that than the hardware cloth, because the hardware cloth, you're looking at about £40 a roll at the moment. So it's quite expensive. God, we've got some sunshine at last. Early November, it hasn't been much sunshine yet in November, so it's nice to see it. And that's it really. You just need to get yourself a couple of thousand cable ties. And I'm not joking, I do mean a couple of thousand. The kits always come with a few hundred, but that's nowhere near enough. They usually come with these little thin ones as well. I use them to join layers of chicken wire, but when it comes to attaching to the coop, I buy thicker cable ties. And yeah, I think I'm averaging about 2,500 cable ties per coop. It is quite time intensive making these things, just because of attaching the wire. It takes so long. And then you have to do the second layer with the hardware cloth. I then have pegs in the ground, which I can't see any of them at the moment because the grass is long. There you go. So there are these little tent pegs here that just go in the ground. I don't know how much these do really, but just a bit of extra stability. For me, I've also added a couple of hurricane anchors into this run with some ratchet straps. I'm going to do that every other run. I don't need to do it in every run, I don't think. They're not massively expensive, but you're looking at about sort of £20 for 2 of them, and then the ratchet straps on top. So yeah, it's probably another 40 quid invested really. But I have had the coops go flying a couple of times, so I want to avoid that. It's a pain. It's not good for the chickens. They get a bit stressed and they end up all over the field. So yeah, that's what I do. So it's very straightforward. It's literally build the poles, attach the chicken wire, put on the mesh, and then the mesh skirt that will be going on as well once all the runs are attached to each other. I like a raised coop. I like them off the ground. It gives the chicken some shelter when it's hot or cold or raining. It also just gives them more ground space. So the more space chickens have, the better. As you can see, this run's now getting quite muddy. It's just from footfall from the chickens. They do destroy ground quite quickly. So I'll be putting some sort of substrate in here. It'll probably be hardwood chips. In my experience, they last the longest. I'm not a big fan of sand in a coop. It's just not something I like particularly. I'm not sure it's very good for the chickens either. I know some people really advocate for it, but it's just not my choice. These coops probably won't be moving, so I do need to put something in there. It would be lovely to be able to move them just onto fresh grass and let this ground recover, which it would do very quickly. Grass does start to grow again within a week or so, really. But it's just too much to move, I think, on a regular basis. I don't think that's going to be possible, but we'll see how we go. I'm not following lockdown measures at the moment. I don't need to. I'm not required to. I do have netting to cover these coops, and going forward all my coops will be covered with netting because lockdown is just such a common thing now. That it just seems sensible to have it in place ready. I don't need to follow the restrictions currently because none of my flock are laying. They're too young to lay and pay rent yet. Hoping in the next, well, I think this lot will start in the spring now. I don't think the daylight hours will be long enough to encourage them to start laying this year. So that's where we're at with the Buff Orpingtons. You get this with the bigger breeds, it just takes a bit longer. I've gone for Buff Orpingtons and Light Sussex because they're a good dual purpose breeds. They're large enough chickens to make good table birds. They're also good layers. You will get up to sort of 300 eggs a year from these breeds. That is subject to many things. It's subject to molt, it's subject to how many times they go broody. I haven't had Buff Orpingtons before, but I have been told that they are very prone to broodiness, and they don't lay when they're broody. I have had Light Sussex before, and they are really broody birds, really broody birds. So we'll see how we go with that. I will have some more prolific layers in amongst my laying flock as well. But these are breeding birds, so these birds will just have a comfortable life and just be here to get some hatching eggs and point of lays and growers. Be nice. So yeah, they're a really docile breed. They're a nice pet chicken, these ones. And that's what I'm breeding them for. I want them to go to people as their backyard chickens, really. They can just have them as their pets. They're inquisitive little things. Very chilled out. The boys don't crow very often. No, they're a really nice breed. Light Sussex are lovely too. They are one of my favourites. They're a bit more scatty than the Orpingtons, and they're a bit more feisty as well. But they're good fun. They're nice birds. But yeah, the girls are terrible for broodiness, in my experience so far in the past. So we'll see how that goes because they're all going to end up in breeder jail. Yeah, but that's what we do. This is a nice coop. This is Flight So Fancy, I think this came from. It was expensive. I won't pretend otherwise. It was several £100s. I can't remember how many because I've had it for many years now. I want to say probably £500 or £600 for this coop. It holds these birds comfortably. I wouldn't put any more in there. So it's got 7 birds in there. And these are large fowl. They are quite big animals. But yeah, I wouldn't want to try and get more than 7 birds in there. These two are just in a little coop I inherited actually from a lady who I was buying a used run from. Play nicely. Honestly, I'm just telling the people how nice you are. You show me up. I know. Hello. I know. It's tough, isn't it? Yeah. But as I say, they're very sweet. They just want to be around you. They want to see what you're doing. They're nosy. Blurry. You're very nosy, aren't you? Yeah. Nothing's happening, guys. Go and eat your pumpkins. I've just given them some munchkin pumpkins, cut in half. You can get a lot of really cheap pumpkins at the moment that are great for your chickens. They enjoy them. They enjoy scratching them. Although obviously none of them are eating now. I've come over because they all come over to say hello to me instead. But they enjoy the seeds. They enjoy the flesh. Yeah, I think I paid 12p each for these munchkin pumpkins. So they've all got some in the run. I just chop them in half and let them get on with it. Make sure you take any skin out once they've eaten all the flesh, or else it'll just get mouldy and make a slimy mould patch in your run, and you don't want that really. Chickens are prone to infections, so yeah, you want to avoid it where you can. The other measure I will be doing for lockdowns is I will be putting foot dip in place. I have them ordered, but of course everyone in the country has ordered foot dips at the moment, so I think they're due to come next week. Because, you know, biosecurity is very important with birds anyway. They are susceptible to disease, and especially as, not necessarily these birds, but the laying flock, I would like to go for organic status in the future. So biosecurity is going to be really important here once that's up and running. But yeah, no, happy birds. They've got plenty of space. They do need some more enrichment. It's kind of a Peter and Paul situation with money at the moment. I need to get things up and running, so I can't really spend out on extravagances, but I can just make them kebabs. You can make that with like twine and some fruit and veg, and just thread some fruit and veg onto them and hang them across your coop, and they enjoy that. So yeah, I probably should do something like that. Just be careful you don't use just be careful you don't use something that they can choke on, or they're not dissimilar to sheep in their wish to calm themselves. Chickens, they do find weird and wonderful ways to get themselves in trouble, so you need to do your best to keep them out of it. I really like this feeder. I got that new this year. It's bigger than it looks on the screen. Chickens are quite big. It keeps the food really dry. I don't bother closing it and opening it every night and day, but it just keeps the food really dry. The only thing I would say about it is once it gets really low, the chicken just, possibly because they're big chickens, but they just can't get to the bottom, so I just tip it out and then refill it, and let them have it as scratch the rest of their feed. These are also great. They keep the food really dry, but these two chickens, bless them, yeah, I have found the boys are a little bit thicker than the girls. There's no two ways about it. Although he has found the pumpkin now, which is something. It's took these boys the best part of 3 weeks to actually start eating from the feeder. I was having to come out and actually throw some food around for them on the floor. As you can see, I've done it now because I realised that actually no food was going, and it turned out they just weren't eating because they couldn't figure out the feeder. So yeah, you don't have to be a genius to be a light Sussex cock call. But we have got there. Today's the first day I've actually found a decent amount of food gone from the feeder, so they finally worked it out. But yeah, I mean, it is quite low for them, in fairness. I raised it up. Yeah, we'll see how they get on with it. But keeping food dry is a constant battle. I don't worry about water being anything specific. I don't really feel the need to enclose that any more than these waterers. I did get a waterer that was similar to the feeder, but had little cups on it, but the chickens just kept breaking the cups off because they're clumsy oafs and they flap around and get excited, and the little cups get broken off and the springs go missing, and then you have to buy new springs. So yeah, I gave up on them. I liked it because it kept the water really clean, but to be honest, it's more cost effective to have one of these drinkers and just wash it than it is to keep buying parts of the more expensive drinkers. So yeah, So that's what we do. As I say, I'm no expert. It's just what works for me and has worked for me over the years. Yeah, so there we are.